Hello everyone, my name is Cetus and welcome to Oxygen Not Included. A very neat little base building game that came out, I don't know, a year or so now, but I've been thinking of it a lot recently and decided I would make a video series of it as I was dabbling around and just remembering how much I really like this game. It's got a fun, not so difficult get going, but once you get into the late game it becomes surprisingly complicated. We are going to do survival mode, keep things a little interesting and challenging. Now we got to choose our asteroid. We have our basic easy asteroid. Uh, you know, this one, I guess basically there's lots, it gets hotter and hotter, volcanic, badlands, like no resources. The two I was thinking of for this video series is this one, Forest Planet, you can see the forest sticking out of it. I've never seen the forest biome, so I was interested in that. But I think I'm going to go with Rime here, which is the ice planet. And the reason for that is a huge component of the mid to late game is trying to manage heat. You're trapped inside an asteroid, everything you do produces heat, and you have no place for the heat to go because you're in a closed environment, a closed loop, right? At least at the beginning of the game. We won't get into the later game yet. And that's a huge component of the challenge. I'm curious what it's like if it's the opposite. If instead of things building up in heat, I'm constantly building up with cold. I don't know if that makes it easier or colder. Well, I guess I know it makes it colder. Easier or hotter is what I was going for. Survival chance likely, so hopefully it's not too bad. Counteract the fact I'm mediocre of it. We now have traits down here. Things like the oil is trapped in oil wells. We don't normally begin in the middle. But now it's somewhere, it's still nowhere near the surface, but it's not in the exact center. Interesting. The world has more geysers and vents. That's interesting. Slime modes. Ocean. I don't really know what I'm looking for in this. Subsurface ocean. Below the crust of this world is saltwater sea. That's interesting. Frozen core. The world has a chilly core, so normally the core is volcanic. It's like magma, which would have helped us out a lot. So maybe this is the way to go. Trapped oil. Most of the oil in this world needs to be evacuated with oil wells. That's really interesting. Let's run with that. I think. Geoactive sounded fun because the vents, for reasons I won't get into yet, are super useful. But you know what? I'm still gonna have vents, so I'm gonna run with this. Frozen core sounds par for the course, right? We want to have to challenge ourselves to deal with the cold, not challenge ourselves to have an easy way to get heat, which a magma core probably would be for the middle of the game. Wouldn't have easy access to it to begin with, but eventually we would have easy access to it. Please load now, because I ran out of what I was saying. I guess, well, we're about to, oh, here we go. We're about to pick people. Now, I don't know what the ideal traits are for the people, but we have the things they're interested in. Them being interested in something has two bonuses. One, they are simply better at it. But the more important one is almost that they get a morale bonus for learning how to do it. And that's a huge component of this game, is keeping your people happy and the morale up. So I've kind of gone back and forth. I've never looked at what the ideal starting crew is. To begin with, I was kind of like, well, I want someone who's just good at the most important things to begin with, especially because it's later on, for reasons we'll get into later. It's hard to get someone who's good at just one thing, and the bonus goes up. So if we re-roll, but it's +7 now because he's only good at farming, which would be useful. And then we have traits. This guy likes to be up at night. But he uses the bathroom a little bit longer. So normally a positive and a negative trait. And then we have stress reaction. He binge eats, and we'll almost certainly be showing off the stress thing later. We can control the roller a little bit. So let's find us a builder. So building and farming. These are both important traits. I don't like them being together because my builder is almost always going to be busy and my farmer is almost always going to be busy. See, this is tempting because +7 builds super good. Maybe this is the way to go. But the morale penalty from only having one set of bonuses is pretty steep. Though the buff helps out a lot because it has increased capacity. Maybe I'll go with this person, because some of the later buildings can take a while. Well, we'll think about it. We also need, to begin with, a researcher. I just roll right past that. It's probably under off for researcher. Oh, perfect. +7 right off the bat. This is the reason I want it just to be researching is your research is almost always going to be doing research, especially beginning to middle. Someone dedicated to this will be useful. End game, maybe they'll become slightly less useful, but I think they'll always have something they can do. Kind of would be nice if they want a barometer. Let's just quickly. Oh, look at that. Immediately. Destructive. Well, that's actually probably was. Whatever. I'm not going to keep clicking that. That would be boring for you guys to just watch me click. We also need a digger. I could just do +7s all round. Exactly what I said I wasn't going to do this time because I was going to try something having multiple ones. But at the same time, that's pretty decent. Increased evacuation on her as well. This person can dig like crazy. Plus 175 digging speed on top of another plus 75% digging speed. Like, that's massive. Okay, let's run with this. I don't know if this is the ideal crew. Probably isn't, especially with a small bladder. Whatever. Oh, and there was a name in the colony, which I didn't think about. So what was it? The Plagued Dreamland? Something like that. I've awoken at the target location, but colonization efforts have already hit a hitch. I was supposed to land on the planet's surface, but became trapped many miles underground instead. Although the conditions are not ideal, it is imperative that I establish a colony here and begin mounting efforts to escape. Okay, so here's our good fun. Let's pause for a brief second and look at temperature right off the bat. So we have a little area of a lovely cozy 21 degrees, basically the heat we warped in with. Unless this gives off heat, I don't actually know. I don't think it does normally, but maybe it does for the cold map. Then we have a round area of about 15 degrees Celsius where it's, it's temperate, it's not so bad. Then we're getting a little bit chilled out here, minus 24 degrees Celsius. 1 degree. 1 degree. A little bit less ideal around the edges. So that's not, ideal. As suggested. Just a giant thing of sandstone here, which is really interesting. Not the most helpful for us because it's... Well, I mean, sandstone is useful, but, it would be nice to get copper, coal, things like that. In our starting area, we have tons of water, which is nice. I already don't remember what traits our planet has. Frozen core, and I think subsurface ocean. So water might not be as much of an issue for us, but it might become salt water at some point. Okay, so to begin with, our first two priorities, and we can't click on any of the buildings yet because we don't have any resources to deal with them. But our first priority is going to be able to get a bathroom set up because bathrooms are important for your people, and then beds. Beds are slightly less urgent, but it would be nice, if our people didn't have to spend the night on wow, my brain stopped working again. It would be nice if they didn't have to spend the night on the floor and get a sore back for the next day. What do we got over here? Ice. Yeah, that's more what I was expecting. Lots of ice. Down here, more water, some copper ore, granite. Algae is important because you use algae to make oxygen. At least the early game forms of oxygen. There's other ways to make it later on, but it's kind of the beginning route. We have a bunch of plants that we can harvest for food. I'm kind of curious if these will last any length of time because as it gets colder, they're not going to grow in the cold. We have oxylite here. Oxylite gives off oxygen until we can get our own things going, so that's a good start. Now, I would dive into rooms, but I'm going to talk about how I'm going to build them a little bit because I tend to plan right away. And I tend to plan based on the room overlay. You get bonuses for making rooms dedicated to something. So for example, barracks. Sleeping in a barracks will improve duplicates' morale. Single if it has at least a bed, no industrial machinery, and is between a size of 12 tiles and 64 tiles. The other one to note right off the bat is the greenhouse for growing stuff needs to be between 12 tiles and 96 tiles wide, and these need to be closed in rooms. I like to plan for that right off the bat. So 64 is what most of the rooms are, which is going to be 4 by 16 to get it. So 8 into 16. So we basically want... Oh, too big. We basically want 4 by, what, 8 going this way? And 4 by 8 going this way. So I'm going to build 1 room's width of size here. I'm going to do 1 room's over here, and then since the plant's over here, I guess we'll do the bigger room for the farming eventually. Probably won't dig that out right away. So now we got some base tiles down. I'm going to put tiles down just so I know what the size is going to be, just to help me remember. 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. Okay, good. Then we're going to have a 3-place gap. And the reason for that is we're going to be putting ladders down the middle. And then we're going to have some room either side for some things that I know are going to come later, but also allow oxygen flow. Because that's a huge part of this, is oxygen acts like a gas with carbon dioxide and all sorts of things. So we're going to have to think that out. Eventually, we're going to want this to be 4 by 16. We don't need it to be that big to begin with. We'll do a little 4 by 8 room. And then I'm going to do a little 4 by 8 room there. And we're going to put a ladder up here. This is going to become our bedroom, and this is going to become our what's it? Our outhouse. So planning ahead a little bit, medicine. So germs, a huge component of this game as well. So you need wash basins, basically to keep your duplicates clean. So we're going to build 2. Actually, we're not going to build 2. We're going to leave space for 2. So we only have 3 people for now, so we can probably get away. Actually, I think what we want... I re-changed my mind. We're going to go back to medicine. We're going to put 2 wash basins in. We're going to put tiles down. The tiles help your people move faster, give a little bonus to decor, which can give a morale bonus, and allow you to run pipes and stuff through it for the later game, which we're not at. I'm now going to come into priority. This is unimportant, the stuff on the floor. What we want is that done right away. We want up here done. And then we are going to put 3 beds. What's the wall? That's going to be the wall. So we're going to 1, 2, 3. And we're going to want that there. Not enough materials, but that's fine. So we're on pause. Come back to priorities. I'm actually going to change it around. I'm going to do 7 through here. 6 up and 6 over. Just to try and get those things up and running. And we're going to increase speed. I'm almost always going to keep us on speed 3. We have 3 different speeds, and then just pause if I need to take a moment for me. Eventually we'll need access to food. Oh, and actually, I didn't think about it, but we need water or the wash basins aren't going to do anything. So we will come down here, plumbing, and we'll get a pitcher pump so they can basically dig up water. And we'll put that there. And this should probably become the most important. Getting that up and running. We'll clean things up a little bit later and get things set up. But to begin with, let's just get, the basics up and running. Fun thing you can do with the wash basins is we can set it so they only wash their hands going one way. No point to wash their hands before they go to the washroom. Might as well do it after. Let's see. Oh, and the reason I do 4 up, because you can tell the buildings are only 3 spaces up, and then I built a 4th one, is later on there will be some decor items that you can make things look nicer. Plus also just plumbing gets complicated and stuff like that. I just like to build out with this in mind. But I'm really happy we have our bathrooms up and running. We have our beds up and running. The floors aren't down, but the floors are a little less important. Gotta be a little careful though, because you can tell as they pull the land out beneath it, the building stops functioning for a moment until they build the next item. But we almost have a working base form of the base. This plant is a little bit in an irritating spot because I'm going to want to dig around it at some point. But, you know, that's fine, I guess. We're going to want to get up here at some point so we can get access to all the lovely food. Actually, this guy's going to be a bit irritating because obviously your people don't like it. Well, it might not be obvious, but people don't like it if light's shining in their eyes when they're trying to sleep. So if this guy gets around, he'll be a problem. So what we're going to do... I have no metal ore? How do I have no metal ore already? That's a weird beginning to this game. I normally have quite a bit of metal ore by the beginning. Okay, well, you know, that's... I guess we're keeping things interesting. Did I have large boulders or something? That might be what this is. I might have began in a large boulder. But look at this. Sleeping happily. Life is good. While we're in here, we can take a look at priorities. You can already see it gets a little interesting because you can basically set what are people going to dedicate themselves to. So Nesbit, we're gonna max it out. Always do research if research is an option. I'm not going to change anything else yet. Lyra likes to attack and dig, so we'll put that as her two top priorities. Probably attacking at the top. It doesn't come up often, but if it comes up, probably want it done immediately. And then digging below that. And then for max, we'll have you start with building as the most important. And then after that, we'll do tidying and supplying and storing. That's not the perfect layout of priorities, but we don't have that many people, so that's just going to be what it is. These people are idle because I was too busy explaining stuff and not planning out our room. we're going to harvest this, and then we're just going to immediately destroy it. Getting rid of food at this point, I think, is probably a terrible idea, but it's the terrible idea we're going to go with. We cannot get our research up and running because we do not have copper ore. So we do need to expand to that. I see some copper ore over here, which will be good. Copper ore down here. So actually, let's do this. We'll do a little strip. Clearing that out. It will give us a little bit of a place for our carbon dioxide to pour to begin with. And get us some of the ore we need. And then we're going to plan out the room. We're going to uproot this. Uproot this. Not ideal getting rid of the food early on, but you know what? Having things organized the way I want is more important than not. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep the same sizing for this size. Actually, not there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to dig our way over here. Nothing fancy, not full room, just enough that we can harvest plants. As long as those plants want to function. In fact, don't even need to build those floors yet. So it's a nice, the one tile is a nice reminder of what I want to do in the future. Oh, interesting. Slime. So, there's a slime biome. Slime is a problem because it gives off germs. It gives off slime lung, which... Oh, that helps. Which it does not give off, and I'm gonna guess it doesn't get off because it's so cold. That is interesting. Yeah, slime lung here. Very, very nasty illness for you people to get, and you normally have to avoid slime to begin with, or very carefully build around it until you can get hazard suits, basically. Not hazard suits, but space suits. But that's useful, because maybe we can build in there now. Because how far... So, for the other building, I was going to put farming over here. And to do that, we need what? 4 by 24? So that is going to go into there. So we'll have to be careful. We'll have to think that through at some point. But for now, let's just build... We'll dig to there. And we don't have farming tech yet, so we can't do that. We'll build a research station, because Basically, we want to get research going right away, and we want to get wow, I'm just having trouble speaking today all over the place. I guess that's not that uncommon for me, for my brain to just stop mid-sentence, which is fine. We want to get our research going so we can get our better tech things later. It will save time. To begin with, we have our research station. The only way we have to generate power is basically a giant human wheel. And then we'll have a battery to store the power. So they're not standing on the wheel every second that they're doing research. And that's going to be our little starter room. And then just to help me remember, we'll stop. Oh, actually, no. Why are we doing that? That's going to be farm tile. That doesn't need to... Farm tile is a different tile instead of this, so there would be no reason at all to put this down just to dig it out later. Kind of just get in the way. So let's get this up and running, and then call that a good... if you're curious why this is now filled in again, sand has the rudeness to basically fall when there's nothing supported it underneath because it's loose, so it just falls down and then it blocks things. So now we have our research up and running. And we can take a look at this giant research tree, which is giant, and that's kind of fun. Mildly overwhelming, especially if you're beginning the game. But, you know, it's not so bad when you break it down. Well, they break it down by the nice categories. So where we want to start is going to be an interesting opening challenge. I'm thinking we want to get farming up and running early. However, we got to keep things warm. And so to slow down the heat, because basically the coldness is emanating. And it's going to attempt to basically reach an equilibrium. And that equilibrium is going to translate to our core being frozen. You know, it goes down to only -18. We go up to -10. That's still enough to be a problem. So the other possible concentration point would be insulated tiles. And where are insulated tiles? Down here, along with heaters. Space heaters. Space heaters are super not efficient, but they would be helpful in this point. But, to do that, we need advanced research, which we're not set up for. And to do that, we would need... Well, we wouldn't need other pieces of technology, but I want lots of pieces of technology. That's awkward. It would be nice to get proper power, too. It'd be nice to get a lot of things. Okay, I'm going to go straight for... farm tiles. Get a little bit of my own farming down. And then I'm going to build... It's not great for insulating, but I'm going to build a wall there just to try and slow down that. I guess the cold's over there. Well, that's not helpful, but it will make me feel better. The code's over here, so the reality is it will have very limited effect, but you know what? It makes me feel better. You know, no, I'm not going to be ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous. I'm not going to fall into that. Let us definitely, though, turn this into the barracks, though. It won't be a barracks unless it's closed in. So we'll get that going, which is a good start. And I think that is going to be a good place to call this episode. We've got the foundations of our base up and running. We're set up to get our research going and get going from there. In the meantime, I'll probably just build out some of the basics, get us prepared for the future. Oh, look at the lovely ice over there. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Look at that. The cold is already getting into our bathroom. And it's what we set ourselves up for, right? We set ourselves up for a cold, not great time, but that's how it's gonna be. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next episode.